Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for attending our webinar today. If you don't mind, if you can hear me, mind just someone chatting in the chat section of your console, just to let me know you hear me okay. Perfect, perfect. All right, let's begin. Oh my gosh, I've been wanting to give this presentation for a little while now, so thank you again. My name is Brian Wendroff. I'm the managing partner of Wendroff and Associates CPA. We're a local CPA firm in Arlington, Virginia. We work with a lot of businesses, supporting their accounting processes, helping develop their system, helping them with tax preparation and planning. A lot of these local businesses are right here in our community, ones that you probably see if you're going to school in the local community and see outside your door in the area. I'm also having who's going to be joining us. Her name is Jordan Glaze. She's going to be helping to answer questions that you may have during this presentation. So again, if you have any questions while we're giving the meeting, there's a question in the console you have to be able to ask, and Jordan will try her best to see how she can answer a question or let you know if she needs some more time and can get back to you at a later time. Like I said, I've been wanting to give a long time. We're going to talk about something really important. AI and automation, something that you're hearing all the time. We're going to talk about how it's transforming the accounting profession. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was staying relevant. In the accounting profession and probably all professions, it's important to stay relevant. What do I mean by staying relevant? I mean being aware of what tools are out there so you can use and to be able to perform to the best of your ability in what you do. So knowing what tools are out there, and tools are being created all the time. Just being aware and being relevant means knowing about these tools and knowing how to use them is also very important. So one, when I think about staying relevant, then tools are out there at your disposal. And number two is knowing how to use those tools and trying to find ways to perfect to use those tools so you can be the best you can be in the job or position you perform. Now, two of the most important tools in our industry that I'm going to talk to you about, and probably a lot of industries, is I'm going to talk to you about the AI tool, ChatGPT, and I'm going to talk to you about an automation tool called Zapier. And you can see this slide. Now let's talk about ChatGPT. I don't really need to tell you what ChatGPT is. I'm thinking that most, if not all of you, are using ChatGPT at this time. Now, probably you've been hearing that AI or let's say AI is going to take our jobs. That's not true. What could take our jobs, though, is someone who doesn't know how to use the AI or know and be aware of this tool like ChatGPT and know how to use ChatGPT. That's what could be concerning, because someone or a company who's looking to work with new team members, they're probably going to be ready for someone or want and be aware of ChatGPT and how to use it. So that's what's important. Not ChatGPT or AI taking over us, someone not knowing how to use it, and someone else that does know how to use these tools to be able to take the position. Now, Zapier. I don't know if some of you have ever heard of Zapier. Zapier is an automation tool. And let's just think about automation. Automation is quite simple. It relates to if there's a trigger, when there's a trigger, something gets triggered and action happens. So let me just repeat that. Automation. You see it all the time. It's all over, everything. Computers, it's around us all the time, automation. So let me simply say, when there's a trigger, when something gets triggered, there's an action. And let me just kind of give you a simple example. Think about when you're in a grocery store or you're walking towards a grocery store there's an automation there, and the automation is you when the door opens up. So think about when the grocery store door opens. The automation, or the trigger, I'm sorry, the trigger is you getting close to that, getting distant to that door, and the sensor being aware of how close you're to the door. So you are the trigger, and when you walk towards that trigger, the trigger happens, the door opens up. That's a simple automation. And today I'm going to talk to you about Zapier, a no-code automation software, can help you create these automations in your environment. Now, when I talk about no-code software, what Zapier is, it's a tool. It's like an integrator that connects all these different applications that you're looking at right now. So tools like LinkedIn, technology like LinkedIn, Microsoft Teams, Slack, Excel, QuickBooks, ChatGPT. Zapier is a tool that you don't need to know how to code to make these work together. It's called a no-code software that allows things work together. There's over 7,000 applications that you can use to automate and work together and create automations for in the Zapier product. So just to conclude on this slide, relevant. It's just something that I think is very important for you to continue to move forward in this profession, the accounting profession, in any profession. Knowing and being aware of the tools out there at your disposal and being aware when new ones come out, those tools to the best of your ability. And I say that with confidence. As I said, I don't know if I said this, we're a 20-person CPA firm, but we feel and we have the confidence to provide the same service, if not a better service, than some of the biggest CPA firms out there in the world by being relevant and staying aware of these tools that I'm about to show you today. Let me go to, so this is the agenda. I'm going to show you the uses of ChatGPT and Zapier and how they're being used in the accounting industry. So I'm just going to show you some of the uses of these two tools. I'm going to show you studies. In two of these, in these case studies that I am going to show you, these are things that you can even implement right now with what you're doing right now, probably. I hope you can. At least the first case study, I think you can, and maybe both. I'm going to talk to you about some resources that's going to help you maybe potentially learn some of these tools better and for you to move forward and continue to stay relevant. And also, I'm going to have a Q&A. Like I said, though, if you have any the webinar, feel free to ask them to my colleague, Jordan. All right. Let's talk about uses of ChatGPT. I'm sure, again, many of you, if not all of you, are using ChatGPT. Now, how we use it in our profession, this is just a few different ways, some different ways in our profession. I do want to say something about ChatGPT, though. ChatGPT is a tool, and it's going to provide you an output, whatever you ask for, right? If you ask it to respond back to an email or do some research, I'm sure you're realizing that that's not the end all. It's you who is the end all. When you get a response from ChatGPT, like writing an email, that's not the final product. You have to learn to, and again, learn these tools and how to use them and let's say modify them and tweak them to the final product. Because a lot of times when these emails come out, it doesn't know exactly how you want to respond. There's the you of the response. There's the experience you have. There's the personality you have. You got to add those elements to the final output of what ChatGPT gives you. I almost feel like ChatGPT, for a lot of things it does for you, it's going to give you about 80% of what you're that extra 20%. And that's super important to be able to be aware of that and not, let's say, whatever, a lot of the output that it gives you be the final product of what you're going to use with it. So you can use ChatGPT course to respond back to emails. I'm even going to show you in case study 1 a cool automation. You can use it to write letters and outlines. And trust me, we're doing this every day. So I'm imagining you were doing this. We're doing this every day. It's used for research. Now, think about researching. Like a lot of our attendees today are accounting students. And a lot of you are learning about certain research areas to be able to research. like the AICPA, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, IFRS, the Internal Revenue Code, the IRS. You're learning about those sources, and you can use ChatGPT to research certain things relating to how you want to research for what you're doing. A lot of times though, you have to make sure you can rely on that information. So one of my suggestions is when you do this type of research, you want to maybe take that second step, ChatGPT, to provide you references, to provide you solid sources to back up what they're saying. Because there's been times where I've done research and it doesn't give me exactly what I need, or even some of it might be a little wrong or just communicated in the way that I differently by what I know through experience, or just confirming through a source, a trusted source like the IRS or whatever source you feel is a trusted source. So just want to make sure you're aware of that. It can be used for procedures and process development. Think about like when you, even when you're at school and developing processes or procedures for what you're about to do, or in our profession, as we grow, we're going to have these responsibilities to create procedures and standard operating procedures and instructions on maybe what we do internally for some of the services we perform, and maybe externally for the customer. I did past auditing. There's audit procedures. ChatGPT can use to help you create audit procedures. So there's some cool and useful ways that you can use ChatGPT. Coding. But you can code pretty intensely with ChatGPT. In our second case study, I'm going to show you how ChatGPT can code for you. And I'm talking about serious coding. Like, I'm not a coder at all, but with the tools available, like Zapier, I can feel pretty confident that I can find ways to code. And that's just because of I'm getting more aware to use the tool. I mean, coding can be done with like Python, Java, Google Apps Scripts, case study 2 I'm going to show you today. So I just want to let you know coding can be very much be used or be asked for with ChatGPT. Data analysis and summarization. A lot of you who are accounting majors and business majors, data analysis and summarization. I mean, think about what you're doing. You're doing accounting. You're going to be looking at numbers a lot. So being able to use ChatGPT to analyze those numbers, give you insight or something that you may not be thinking of is going to be powerful. It's going to be relevant. So be aware of that. Summarization. A lot of times you're going to want to summarize a lot of data really quickly to give you specific data or outputs you need. I'm just going to tell you an example. This happened to me recently. I received something called a general ledger. For our accounting majors and for other attendees, a general ledger is a list of accounting transactions within a period of time. And when I received this information, Excel spreadsheet, and it was thousands of lines of these different transactions, accounting transactions. And the potential customer asked me to create a set of financial statements or come up with that information. To literally take this general ledger, this huge spreadsheet, and I put it in ChatGPT, and it helped me consolidate this information, these numbers, with a little bit of finessing, a little bit of tweaking to a set of financial statements. What would have taken me days took minutes with the use of ChatGPT and the summarization. And ChatGPT is literally like a personal assistant. Think about it like a personal assistant. You can ask it anything. You ask it to give a joke, talk to it. Personal assistant to you to be able to go on with your day. Let's talk about Zapier. Zapier is an automation tool. So let me just explain this. YouTube is YouTube because it's YouTube. Facebook is Facebook because it's Facebook. Google is Google because it's Google. These are the best of the best things. And what's so great about these tools and this technology is that they do something very specific. And that's really cool. That's what these organizations focus on, what they do something very specific. There's no one size fits all tool or technology that does all this. There's no tool that has an accounting software and also can send emails out. show you videos. There's no one tool that can do that. There's all these great tools out there though that can do something very specific. And what's so great about Zapier is a tool that can make all work together in harmony through automation. And that's the power of Zapier. That's the usability of Zapier. And I'm going to show you Zapier in this no-code software. But I did want to put that point across to you. Important of all the tools we use do something very special, and that's great. And to be able to work them together, which is going to happen, and which the billion-dollar organizations are doing, they do it through automation. So here's the uses of Zapier, this automation tool in the accounting industry. It can be used for data entry and syncing across systems. So think about like every time maybe you write an email to someone, it can also text them at the same time. That is automation. Think about like if you had to put some information into a spreadsheet and then it had to update maybe systems like someone's name or address. Like let's say a database. Let's say you put an address in a database or a person's name or whatever, it can update all these other systems. That is automation. It can be used for invoicing and payment reminders. I'm going to show you called QuickBooks. It's like the #1 accounting software for small businesses. And this thing about example of this is like QuickBooks. Let's say every time an invoice gets sent out to a customer, it also sends a Slack message or a Microsoft Teams message to the company's manager saying this invoice went out, and also sends a text message to the customer that alerts them that this invoice went out. And that's maybe a cool thing because now this customer who needs to pay this invoice has 2 ways to be there. And that can be good for the company to get paid quickly. So that is an automation. Document management and organization. Well, think about like if you get an email and it has an attachment and you need that attachment in like Google Drive or in your computer. That can be done through automation because you can customize the way that you want information being triggered on to then act on. Customer onboarding. Well, this can be really big. I just talked to you about all these tools. I bet if you look at the average company, I mean the big companies, they're probably using hundreds of tools to perform their work in a company. If not thousands, I don't know. But let's just say, let's roll with maybe hundreds. And to be able to like onboard a customer, let's say, whenever a new customer gets onboarded for a company, it could go into all these different tools and update their information. And then it can send the customer sets of instructions on what their experience is going to be with the customer and really just get them through their journey. That could all be done through automation, customer onboarding. Reporting and dashboards. Think about in reporting dashboards, like let's say when you're updating a spreadsheet or a Google Sheet, and how that sets of information, let's say every row is a new set of information to update a dashboard dynamically in real time. And I'm going to show you how this actually happens. And this is really important because getting but getting real-time data is really big in the accounting industry. A lot of times accountants think about the past, but if you can think about in real time, that's going to help you make better decisions. And of course, forecasting to the future. And repetitiveness. Think about things you do repetitively. Things that can, like writing an email or sending a text or something repetitively. That can save tons of time, and it's happening all the time. All right. I'm going to talk to you about case study #1. Email responses with drafts. So think about how many emails you get on a daily basis. I know I get a lot. I get like 10, 20, 30 emails a day. And when you go in your profession or student, you want to respond back to those emails potentially. I know as a professional, it's my duty to respond back to those emails. And sometimes that can be overwhelming though. Think about all the emails someone can get in a day to respond back to. And I'm sure you feel it when you send an email to someone, you'd hope to get a response back pretty timely. So that's the thing, you want to respond back timely. A customer, let's say, could be upset when someone doesn't respond back to their email timely. So in this case study, we're going to talk about automating the email responses, an email response with a draft. And when I'm talking about this, I just talked to you about AI and I just talked to you about automation. Well, what happens when you can put the two together? You're going to see the beauty of something like this in this case study. So the challenge is every time a new email arrives, there's a need to draft a response that's professional, accurate, and timely. Writing each response manually is super time consuming, especially if the questions or topics are commonly addressed. So here I am, I'm going to show you what we're going to do. This is a Zap, or that's the name of what you call when you create an automation in Zapier. I just want to pinpoint something out. You see how it says in the name Zapier, it says in the middle of the name, it says API. That stands for Application Programming Interface, API. I'm sure if not, you're going to hear it. And what that means is that's the integrator that integrates all these tools together, API. I just wanted to point this out. In this Zapier ChatGPT automation, I'm going to show you it's been created. This is the trigger. So like I said, every time a new email comes in, that's the trigger. There's going to be an action. The action is going to go through ChatGPT and it's going to make a response based on the content of that email. And the second action, a draft response in my Gmail for that email. So I'm just going to go ahead and escape here. And I'm going to show you the example. So this is my Gmail. I'm going to type an email to myself, and I'm going to say personal tax return. Hi, Brian. I hope you are well. I wanted to tell you when my personal tax return is due in 2025. Thank you, Jordan. So this could be a common email I get. I get them all the time. But can you imagine getting 10, 20, or 30 of these emails on a daily basis? So I'm going to go ahead and send it. Let me just read over it. I'm going to go ahead and send it. And there you go. There it is. There is the email. Now look, this automation might take about 40 seconds. So what I want to do, if you don't mind, I want to have a poll. So I'm going to do a poll really quick because I want to know which one of you who is using ChatGPT on a daily basis. Let me go ahead and ask that question right now while we're waiting for this automation to happen. So let's see, we have almost more than half of you are using ChatGPT on a daily basis. Okay, almost all of you have voted. Wow, 60% using ChatGPT on a daily basis. We'll let this go for a little bit longer. 80% of you voted. That's awesome. I'm glad. Thank you for participating. Okay. Okay. So more than almost 80% are using ChatGPT on a daily basis. Really good. Now let's go back to this example. I'm going to refresh my screen. And do you see how there's a draft right here? I'm going to go to this draft, and here it is. This is for me with ChatGPT. You can see it has a name response to me. That's my email. It responds with a reply. It even creates a nice reply for me if I wanted to use that. Okay, hold up. I'm going to stop my screen here. Close. I'm going to close that. Sorry about that. So let me go back. I refreshed my Gmail. Here's the draft. And in the draft is here. I want to show you here that this is the email that was responded with. This was the automation. It automatically created a reply email. It automatically created the subject. Well, actually, right here with the response, but it made a nicer subject in case I wanted to use it. And then here it goes. Hi, Jordan. I hope you're doing well too. Thank you for reaching out with your question. For the 2025 tax year, your personal return will generally be 15th to 2026. However, if that date falls on a weekend or holiday, the due date will shift to the next business day. It's always a good practice to be aware of the potential changes, but as now, this is the expected date. If you need help, feel free to reach out as well as talk about tax planning. You can see that this is a nice email. About 80% of this was already done for me. This extra 20% is probably something that I could just fix up. Like, for example, I can maybe bold or do something else. But you can see that that's the power of what I just showed you of using automation and AI together. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not too overwhelmed by all the emails being sent to me. Let me continue on. The second case study, creating a real-time sales dashboard for invoices. So creating a real-time sales dashboard for invoices. So the challenge is QuickBooks does not have a built-in feature or display of real-time charts showing the number and total amount of customer invoices by salesperson. Now, I made these different colors. I made because I want to tell you, a lot of times when you get this, like let's say off-the-shelf software, it can give you some of what you want, but sometimes it doesn't give you everything you want. In this situation, QuickBooks some of what I want, but it doesn't give me everything I want. It allows me to get the number of invoices sent out. In fact, you use QuickBooks to send out the invoices, and it allows me to know the amount of the invoices I'm sending out, but it doesn't break it down by salesperson. So that's why I can now use automation and AI to create my customized report that can update dynamically in real time. So this information is essential for tracking individual performance. When you're in your job, and even school, you might need to create something very customizable for yourself, and you only get about something or some of what you want from some tool, but you want to get whatever you want out of whatever tool. That's the great thing about using automation and coding and all that, to be able to create it the way you want it. And this case study represents this. Now, so let me show you the two parts here. The first part is a zap. I already told you this is in the software Zapier. The trigger is every time a new invoice is created, that is a trigger. The action is that some of this data from the invoice is going to go into the spreadsheet. But there's a second part here. I need to create some code because, as I told you, it can do some of what I want, but it can't break it down by salespeople. So I then asked ChatGPT to create Google Sheets app script to create and make this automation happen. So I'm going to show you how this works. All right. First of all, let me show you this. This is the automation. So I've used Zapier to update these 4 things. So every time I use QuickBooks, it's going to create these 4 things with every invoice that's created. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't create and correspond salespeople to the customers. So you see I have this tab right here. This tab right here is broken down by customers and the appropriate salesperson. And that's what I need to automate or create an automation and a code to make sure it works. Just to show you how what I would do is I'm going to go to ChatGPT and I'm just going to show you, like I wrote this kind of draft of what I wanted to do. I literally just explained to it what I wanted to do. And then I actually this is the basic one. After I create this basic prompt to make the code for me, I actually even asked ChatGPT to make my prompt better, and it gave me this. So I'm just going to read it over. Please create Google Sheets app script that automates the following tasks across invoices and salespeople. The script should match the customer in column B of the invoices sheet with the customer in column A of the salespeople sheet. So I'm just gonna, I just wanted to kind of explain that it created this after it made my better. I asked it to make my prompt better of how to write this code. So then I took the prompt that it wrote for me and I wrote it in here. I said, make the app script, make the code. And then it created the code, the beautiful code for me to do. There's no way I would have been able to do this on my own. No way. I'd have to learn how to code. I know how to learn how to use JavaScript. There's no way I would have did this. But that's the power and usability of using ChatGPT. It created. So what I would do is I copy this code, and then if you go to this Google Sheet and you go to App Script, you could just paste this code into it and then let it try, and then it would work for you. That's the beauty. How it works. All right. This is the third tab. This is the final product. This is 2 dynamic dashboards, and what it shows me is the amount of the the amount for the total invoices that each of the salespeople we have sent. So this is the amounts, and this shows the total number that these salespeople have sent. I want you to keep an eye on this. This number says 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do is on another screen, I'm going to go to QuickBooks and I'm going to create an invoice. All right. All right, so I'm going to create this invoice. I'm going to create it for customer 2 for $1,500. So an invoice has been created. See, got to save it. All right, now I want you to watch this number. I was going to do, and still I'm going to do a poll, but I want to wait. I want to wait a few more seconds. Sometimes these automations happen pretty quickly. Sometimes they take, like I said, up to 60 seconds. But if you saw this, you probably see that this automation happened like that. It happened with about 10 seconds. Now this number changed from 2 to 3. So in real time, these dashboards have changed not automatically for me. I didn't need to do anything, but this report is so useful. So I didn't need to do anything. This automation is happening automatically for me after using both Zapier and ChatGPT to create this for me. And now I dynamically or just review this whenever I want to see where our salespeople, where they're moving forward with the customers. That is powerful. Now, let me go ahead. See here. Let me go ahead and do a poll. And the second poll I want to do is I want to, how many of you are currently using automation or doing automation? So I just put that poll there. How many of you are actually doing automation this time? So we'll let this run for a little while. So we got about 10% doing automation, 20%. So let's see, 73% of our attendees have answered. We'll let this go for a little bit longer. A few more seconds. That's pretty good. I like this. About a quarter of the attendees say they use automation. Say you all use automation. This is great. Makes me excited. Okay, I think we're good. I'm gonna close this poll. So about 25% of the attendees use automation. That is awesome. Just want to show you a couple things. This line for $1,500, that was created through the I just showed you, and that's what updated the number of invoices here to 3 for this salesperson, and then updated these dynamic charts. Really good, really good. Thank you. All right, going back to the webinar. Here's some resources. One of the number one resources is just ask ChatGPT, right? Just ask it for what you're trying to learn about, what tools are out there for the or whatever your profession is. You know, try to learn how to use them. You can just use ChatGPT to learn how to use ChatGPT. Really cool. Zapier University. There's a cool link where you can learn how to use Zapier. Zapier is free. You can pay for higher platforms or higher levels of the software, but you can get Zapier for free and learn some basic no coding with it. That might even help you with what you're doing right now. There's the link I'm giving you is access to Zapier and how to learn how to use the product, use the software. I also have a nice article from Zapier on how to write a prompt in ChatGPT. It's pretty user-friendly article on how to create a prompt. We also have a blog on AI, which we're continuously creating. So I would suggest if you can, go to that. And I'm also giving my personal email address in case any of you have any ideas or thoughts on what the newest or questions about this webinar or just thoughts about AI and automation from you and see what you're doing. But yeah, I just wanted to really share these simple examples, these things that you can really do that you could set up for yourself even now. But I mean, these automations, they're limitless. I mean, they're unlimited in a way. Just think about the ideas that you're doing or things you're doing on a daily basis and how many ideas you can come up with to use automation to make your life easier. I just can't wait to see what you all can do and what ideas you come up with. And that's why I wanted to give you my personal email address. Going back to just being relevant, really, if anything you can take from this webinar is just to be aware what resources are out there. Be open-minded and be curious. It's important to be curious. It's important to take that extra step and get yourself out of that comfort zone to be curious about learning from someone or learning from some tool to do the work you can do. So I really want to express this. I really wanted to thank you all for being in this webinar. Hopefully you learned something. And what I'm going to do is go to the last part of this, the questions. If I can answer any questions this time, please feel free to give us your questions and we can answer your questions. So let's see. And one thing I'll tell you about Zapier is that it's kind of addicting. So when you start using it in automations, you may get to a point where you're literally spending all your time coding and creating automations to just make things work and see how they work together. So that's pretty cool. Okay. From Catherine. Are there things you do not recommend for automation, or is it thinking outside the box for different examples? So the question from Catherine is, are there things you do not recommend for automation, or is it thinking outside the box for different examples? There's really nothing that I don't think if I can automate, but I will, like what I'm saying is, I would try to automate all you can. But you know what? I will answer your question a different way. With sometimes automations that are done, they're not worth it. It's like not worth your time. We would kind of break automations down to a few different things. There's like game-changing, no-brainer automations, like has to be done. But sometimes there's automations that we create that it's more work to create the automation than just do it. That happens sometimes too. And sometimes we come up with an idea of an automation, it's like, it's not worth it. It's just not efficient. You might as well just do it manually. But yeah, for sure. I hope that answered your question. And then, or is it thinking outside the box for different? Well, I would say to answer your question about thinking outside the box for different examples, think about what you do now. Like whatever you do that you feel like you can automate, start with that, whatever you really do. But once you get to a point where you feel like you've done those much automations that you're like set, then maybe you can do two things. You can continue to tweak those automations and make them better, or then look for automations that come to be. We probably have these zaps, I'm telling you, we probably have hundreds of zaps. And we're coming up with new zaps all the time. Because as you grow in your profession, you're gonna have new responsibilities. You're gonna have new things you have to be aware of. You're gonna have new tools you're gonna have to use, and therefore more automations are probably gonna be built. All right, another question. Experience, and this is from, I hope I'm pronouncing your name all right, it's Riera. And Riera asks, have you had experience where an AI automation doesn't work correctly? Have you had an experience where AI automation doesn't work correctly? All the time. How can I say this? Well, how can I say this? All the time where it doesn't work, we got to fix it. Like we got to retweak it. But I will tell you, once an automation's created, it 100%. Like once that's done, like that email I just showed you, where every time I get a new email, an email gets drafted using ChatGPT, 100% it needs to work. And the only reason it may not work if the automation is broken, something happened, and it happened. But once an automation's built, it should work 100% of the time. I hope that answered your question. Another question is from Michelle. And Michelle goes, can you go back to display? Now, what we can do is I will tell you, we can send this this PDF, like this PowerPoint slide, we can send this to you. And we probably will, if you don't mind, with a survey. But Michelle asked us to go back to the resources page. So there's, and you can get like if you want to snapshot this, take a picture of this or an image of this, but we will send this to you, Michelle, to the attendees, a copy so they can have it for their records. Yeah, thank you for that. All right, here's another question. This is from Thomas. Thomas asks, how should someone who is skeptical about using ChatGPT start using it as a tool? Well, I would just do something you don't have to be skeptical about. Do something simple. Do something common that doesn't, like, how do you make a certain food dish? Just ask simple things to it that has nothing to do about being skeptical. Once you do these things, like how do you make pancakes, do them and see the result, right? We just talked about ChatGPT being some of what the output is. It's you who perfects that output. So if you ask ChatGPT to how do you make pancakes, you have to make pancakes, and you have to see if is that how you feel pancakes need to taste, or how you like that taste, and then you work from there. Use ChatGPT and build the trust within it and within you. All right, let's see here. Some more questions. Let me see if there's any more questions that come here. Now, what time is it? Okay, we still got a little bit of time here. So I want to be able to answer everybody's questions. I want to be able to answer everybody's questions since we have some time here, and I wanted to make sure I open it up to show you those questions. Does anybody need me to show them the case study again? I'm just curious. And I can show you again, one or the QuickBooks one. So you feel free to ask about that. Now, I think there might be one other thing here. My teammate, Jordan, says one thing about ChatGPT and Zapier. If you're not sure how to automate something, you can ask ChatGPT how to create the automation within Zapier. Great point, Jordan. So if you're trying to create a Zap and you want to ask how to make that Zap and you don't know how to do it, you can go ask ChatGPT to make the Zap for you and see if it can come up with that answer. Now, I will say, there's the you part, right? We talked about the you part and talk about resources. You can always reach out to ChatGPT probably by email or Zapier by email and ask them. They want you to use their tool as much as possible. And that's a direct line to the resource. So always feel free to, if you have questions, because you can use the tools, but if the tools don't work, it doesn't mean you have to give up. And let's say you're creating a Zap, it doesn't mean you have to give up. Find another way to get that answer to that question, to that problem you're trying to solve. Okay, Ashley wants me to show her the first case study. So I'm going to show it to you again because maybe I went too quick with it. Let me go ahead and go escape here. Okay, I'm going to go back to this email. I'm just going to write the same email again. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this. Let me get rid of this. Okay, I got rid of everything. And this time, actually, I put the date wrong the first time because I'm trying to think about the next year for a tax return. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to write the email again. I'm going to say personal tax return. Hi, Brian. I hope you're well. I wanted to ask you when my personal tax return is due for 2024, because when you do someone's personal tax return for this year, it's due by April 15th the next year. So here, I hope you're well. I want to ask you when my personal tax return is due for 24. And I'm just I can add something. No, I'll just start with this and maybe we can do one more. And I'll just go, thank you, Jordan. And that's it, right? You're going to get a lot of these emails like this. I'm going to send. So I'm looking for any questions. I'm minding any questions, but I'm going to leave this here because it's going to take a few seconds to automate. That's one thing I want to make sure I point across is to use both and AI. That's super powerful. Like sometimes you just use automation, or sometimes you just use AI, of course. But when you combine the two together, you can imagine how powerful this could be. And that, we're even trying to learn how to use these tools together and think about stuff like I think Catherine said, outside the box. All right, let's see here. I'm going to refresh this. Might take a little while. Oh, there it is. It's fast. There's my draft. So here's my draft. Here's the draft. Sorry, actually here. Here's the draft. And sometimes these drafts aren't all the same. Like it might even answer different questions or get small, but here it is. This is a little bit different. So it responds back to Brian. Here's the response subject. It even gives me another subject in case I want to use this one instead. It says, "Hi, Jordan. I hope this message finds you well. Reaching out with your question. For the 2024 tax year, your personal tax return is generally due by April 15, 2025. However, if that date falls on a weekend or holiday, it may be extended to the next business day. It's always a good idea to keep an eye out on options from the IRS regarding changes to deadlines. If there's any further questions or need assistance with your tax preparations, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to help." Just like that. 80% of this email is done. Saved a lot of time there. All right. Go back to this. Questions. All right, another question from Ashley. Is Zapier a software you download? That's a great question. It is an online software, Ashley. So just like you log into your Gmail, you would log into Zapier. So it's an online software. Yeah, it's not like a downloadable software. It's either you log into it, and then you can also have there's like extensions, like app extensions on the right hand side. Let's say you're using Google, but it is an online cloud-based software. Good question, Ashley. Now we're at 6:47 right now, and I still want to be able to answer all your questions as much as me and Jordan want to answer as much as we can here. Does anybody want me to show them the two or anything else? Again, please feel free to chat that in the questions area, and I'll wait a few seconds here if there's any more questions to be asked. Oh, Gen Z says, thank you for hosting. No problem, Gen Z. I hope you got something out of it. We will send a copy of the presentation to you. All right, we got another question from Thomas. Thomas says and asks, can Zapier be used with Microsoft applications as well? Yes. Zapier has 7,000 applications on it, and Microsoft Teams, Microsoft 365 is totally an application that can be used to automate with other tools. Great question. We have another question from Juliana. So Juliana says this: what are some possible accounting related automations currently being explored by professionals? So the question is from Juliana, what are some possible accounting currently being explored by professionals? Well, let me just give you some examples we're doing. Let's say every time we send an invoice out to someone for a customer, it will automatically then send them like a survey of whatever whatever we did for them a few days later, just to kind of see how they're responding to our work. So that's an automation. The automation is, the trigger is every time an invoice is sent out, a quick survey or form gets sent to them, asking them to tell us how we performed on that task. So that's a survey. That's an automation. We have an automation where, let's say after so many days from if someone hasn't paid, if there's a trigger. So let's say the trigger is 30 days. So if a customer hasn't paid us in 30 days, it automatically can send them an email saying, hey customer, we hope you're doing well. We see we have an outstanding invoice since 30 days outstanding. Do you mind paying us with these different ways you can pay us? And that's a great automation because we have multiple ways someone can pay us. And we define those different ways in an email. And a lot of times we automatically get paid when that invoice gets that email reminder. So there's a handful of automations. We have, like I said, hundreds of automations that are created that are some accounting, but also just company overall automations that can be helpful, that are helpful to us. All right, we're getting to the 6:50 time, so almost getting ready to finalize the webinar, close the webinar out. Questions you have that I can answer for you, or Jordan can answer for you, while before we close out the webinar. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. No, thank you so much. I'm glad you were able to get something out of it. Hopefully you're able to get something out of it. Thank you. Okay, this is another question from Nikki. Nikki asks, when I use ChatGPT, I notice some of the answers it gives are very general. Do you have tips and recommendations on how to ask a question that could give you a more tailored answer? So the question is, when I use ChatGPT, I notice that some of the answers it gives is very general. Do you have any recommendations on how to ask a question that could give you a more tailored answer? So what I would say, Nikki, is it's going to give you, like I said, that it's going to give you a custom answer or an average answer sometimes. And you have to kind of think about how you need to put your insight, your thought, your experience into that answer to modify it accordingly. But sometimes you really might need to specifically point down even specific words or sentences in what you're asking. There's a function in ChatGPT, and I don't know if it's the paid version, but let's say you're asking a question and it provides you the answer, but not the full answer that you were looking for. You can specifically highlight parts of either a question or parts of that answer and ask it to redefine and give you other answers. That's something that's important to be aware of, is that it's going to give you some general answers. It's going to give you sometimes average answers. You have to make it better. Either you, the person, the personality, your experience, you have your in, or then you can continue to just break down the question even further by maybe looking at specific keywords or sentences that you want to ask it that you know it hasn't answered your question yet. Another thing my colleague Jordan said, which is really important for you to be aware of, that's outright custom GPTs that OpenAI, which created ChatGPT, has. You can create your own AI or your own ChatGPT. And what I mean by that, it's like you take ChatGPT and you use these, they call them AI. But what you do is you create your own ChatGPT, you have your own ChatGPT, and then you layer your own proprietary knowledge into that ChatGPT. So let me give you an example. Let's say our company has a standard operating procedure of how people, how they might prepare a tax return, how they may perform accounting. Well, we can create our own GPT called the standard operating GPT that's layered on top of ChatGPT. So therefore, when someone asks questions like, how do I prepare, it's going to take its ability to use ChatGPT, its other knowledge within the internet, and then in this large language model, and then be able to take the custom-made information we've given it to form the best answer it can to the person asking. There's another question. I hope I answered your question, Nikki. There's another question from Ashley. Ashley says, what other AR softwares that you recommend? That's a good question. Yes, great, because there's not, ChatGPT isn't the end all. Probably the next AI application I would suggest is Perplexity. I don't know if you've heard of Perplexity. It is free and you can pay for it. But Perplexity, what's great about Perplexity is it has relevant. ChatGPT might not have current answers. Like it probably can't answer potentially who won like a political position or something like that right now, or what's going on in the weather today. But Perplexity can answer with relevant current information as well as insights. It will give you websites it's citing. It will give you YouTube videos. A lot of stuff will back up the answer it gives you. So Perplexity is probably another recommendation I'd give for another AI application. Oh, Nick, for that suggestion. No problem, Nikki. I'm glad I was able to help. Okay. Nikki asked another question. I also heard about Claude. What's your opinion on that? So there is another AI tool called Claude. A little bit. I felt like I more like ChatGPT. I just felt like ChatGPT's interface is better. They're coming up with more. I felt like there was more modern response, and sometimes I just like the look of ChatGPT. it was better to me than Claude. But Claude is a popular one. But to me, it's like I'm trying to use the best of the best. And to me right now, ChatGPT is the best of the best. I think that's it. It's 6:56. I want to respect everybody's time. This webinar is supposed to be an hour long. Again, you have my personal email. We'll send it out in the presentation, a PDF. Feel free to read. I'm really excited that you let me present today, and I'm even more excited to see what you're going to do with this information and for the future of AI and automation in our industry. All right. So much.